be careful about thinking you're healed in an area that you may not be healed in yet. And take some time. So ultimately, how do you know? And again, not being a psychologist or therapist, how do you know is create some space and time and an environment that you feel very, very comfortable in emotionally, mentally, and physically, to reflect on some areas of your life that may have been difficult or challenging, that you can see if you have any emotions come up. And again, have your pen, paper ready, journal, do some journaling, pray about it. Hey, God, do I have some areas, maybe in my childhood? Do I have some areas as an adult? Do I have some areas in my military experience? Do I have some areas in my business experience? Do I have some areas as an entrepreneur? Do I have some areas in parenting? Whatever that space is, that topic is, unresolved issues that I still need healing or growth in. Because I know for me, what I don't want to do, again, now that I've been on this journey for a few years, I don't want to go through life unhealthy. And I now, obviously 3 years into this emotional growth journey and a year podcasting, what I know is our emotions affect us and impact us every single day and with every single decision. And that's a fact. That's not, and that is a fact. So that's not like, oh, this is Noble's, one of Noble's new insights. No. This is a fact. This is physiology. This is brain. This is how the brain works. So knowing that our emotional grid and our emotional health impacts every single decision, well, I want my emotional center of my brain to be as healthy as possible, because I want to be able to make the best decision possible in every single area of my life. And so I don't want to continue like I've done for most of my life, like literally 98% of my life, to stuff and avoid. Well, I'm good, man. Look, I'm a successful guy. Check me out. So successful by number one, whose definition, whose standards, and are you as healthy as you think you are? Are you as successful as you think you are? Welcome to the EQ for Entrepreneurs podcast. Like most business owners, you already know you need good business and marketing strategies to scale and be profitable. But at some point, you've hit the dreaded wall where you feel stuck and frustrated. EQ for Entrepreneurs is for business owners and leaders who are honest enough to admit that they just might be the ones holding their business back and are brave enough to change that.
We're Noble and Kathy, and every week we're having candid conversations about all things emotional intelligence and how growing that has allowed us to get out of our own way and is radically transforming both our businesses and our personal lives. This is the secret sauce strategy for modern entrepreneurs who are tired of hustling without seeing results and want to grow a business and a life that they love.
Entrepreneurs, leaders, and influencers, welcome to today's episode. Super excited to share about some insights I had with a VA, veterans, veteran affairs counselor today. I'm new in the veteran system. Back in my days in the military, it was very, very spoken to not talk about any of your issues, any of your pains, any of your ailments. I was in the infantry, and man, you could not, again, back in my days, you did not want to let anyone know that you had anything wrong with you, because then you'd be unfit for duty, and now you could not do what I loved and was trained for, infantry stuff. And so, yeah, in my days, man, we did not tell anybody anything. Your arm had to be broke and hanging off by a limb, by a little string before you told anybody that you had something wrong with you. So as I'm kind of entering in this VA system, there's a whole set of folks that you got to see, and they got to chat with you and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm going to share some insights that I learned today, and then was able to talk about with my wife some really interesting emotional insights that I had not ever discovered or known about before. And I want to just again pass along all these insights again as I'm on my emotional growth journey. For those of y'all that have been following us for some time now, thank you for watching our YouTube channel and listening to our podcast, EQ for Entrepreneurs. And one of the ways that we're different in this space of emotional health and emotional intelligence is we do not come from an academic or big corporate background. I feel like, are very unique in this space in that, again, I don't have a PhD from Harvard on, neuroscience or behavioral health or emotional intelligence or, yeah. So, nor do I come from the corporate, hey, I've been a CEO for 15 years and, I've been trained up on emotional intelligence and stuff. This is coming from, military, former military guy, Army, was a Ranger in 82nd Airborne Division, jump master, all that stuff, infantry officer, and entrepreneur for 20 some years. And so, the whole reason that we started this was I wanted to, even if nobody listens to this, I wanted to share my own lessons learned of emotional health and emotional intelligence, of my own journey, my own emotional growth journey, because I have been emotionally clueless for 98% of my life. And the last 3.5 years, we have been on a very intentional emotional growth journey, and it has been life-changing for me. Life-changing in every single area of my life. Tangible changes, not warm, fuzzy changes, not, oh man, I feel happier, or no, like tangible changes. Now, that does not mean that I have arrived. That does not mean that I'm emotionally healthy. I definitely know that I'm emotionally healthier, but I'm not necessarily emotionally healthy yet. And the cool thing is, it's a lifelong journey. So for those of you all who feel like you're ready to take that next step of intention and investment in your own emotional growth journey, check out our EQ course that we have coming up. Actually, this week. Actually, the cart opens this coming week here on, again, teaching emotional health, emotional intelligence, and you can find out details at eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. And again, as I was sharing before, we're not coming at this emotional health, emotional intelligence perspective from an academic perspective. Well, based on my PhD and my 23 years of teaching emotional intelligence, this is from me grinding out my own emotional growth journey the past 3.5 years and applying the lessons that I have learned from getting counseling for 1.5 years and tons of books in the emotional growth, emotional health space. And so this is from a 3.5 years of application. So the things that we share are not conceptual and theoretical, because as an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, man, I got to pay the bills. We got to pay the bills. This has got to lead to change and transformation. And so our lessons are very application oriented. And so hopefully, man, I'd really encourage you to go back through, check out some other episodes, check out some of the interviews we've done, amazing interviews with some incredible people, military folks. One was with a trauma therapist. I think that was episode 39, I believe, a family, an episode 59 on how to raised an emotionally healthy family, Daniel Hagedorn, episode 59. A number of my West Point classmates that are C-level folks, corporate executives, COOs, CEOs, colonels. One of my classmates actually just retired as a full-bird colonel, infantry guy. That was an amazing episode. Colonel Eric Lopez, one of my other classmates. Justin Kramer is at NASA. It runs 100, is in charge of 180. I think it's 180. Hopefully that's accurate. Is a lot of NASA engineers talking about emotional intelligence and emotional health and how it impacts our jobs, how it impacts our performance, how it impacts our family, how it impacts our worldview. So that was Justin Kramer, Eric Lopez, Lee Rivas was another great interview. I did another one recently with a lady who was she is an emotional health coach in a church, a big giant church in Colorado. And that one that was kind of a more recent episode. Anyway, lots of great content in the podcast, and go back through and check out some of these other episodes that you feel some of the titles resonate with you based on where you're at in your own growth journey. So again, check out if that course. We have an 8-week course, and the cool thing, that 8-week course, we really try to hit all learning styles. Where we've got it's again 8 weeks, and there's 4 modules of about 10 to 15 5-minute videos each that are delivered every couple weeks, so that you're not overwhelmed with all the content all at once, followed by a great workbook that really it's simple but very intentional, causes some great introspection, some great reflection. And then weekly, we do weekly live group coaching sessions on Zoom where we're all discussing and sharing the same content. I mean, we're discussing the same content. We're not sharing, obviously we're all sharing our own different perspectives. But I will tell you, there's as much learning that goes on in those group discussions as there is in the actual course itself. So it's super powerful. It's safe. It's obviously a safe environment. And so anyway, check that out. Again, eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. For those of you all that are wanting to get an assessment, I've got access now that I'm a certified EQ practitioner, a scientific assessment on emotional intelligence. You can check that out at eqforentrepreneurs.com/training. You can check that out. Scroll down, kind of get some details about that. But that is phenomenal. And that, if you take that assessment, that comes with a 1-hour discussion, kind of coaching session or interpretation session of your results, of your scientific EQ report. So that's also super cool opportunity as well. Okay, so today, again, as part of my getting into the VA system as a veteran, as a military veteran, Army veteran, I've got to do all these different appointments with these various specialists and stuff. Well, today was with a mental health counselor. And, I've been through counseling. Again, I've said that many times in a lot of these different episodes. Had a 1.5 years of very consistent counseling that was, again, game-changing for me. And here's my, real quick before I go into the details of the things that I learned today, here's how I feel about counseling. If you need counseling, y'all, get it. If you need professional counseling from a professional therapist, we're not professional counselors, we're not therapists, we're not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, we are not mental health professionals, we are not, right? We are entrepreneurs who have changed our lives in every area by getting emotionally healthier, by applying emotional tools to help us get healing in a lot of areas in our lives. If you need help, get it. One of the analogies I use all the time, LeBron James, one of the greatest athletes ever. I have read he spends $1 million a year on himself. Health coaches, nutritionists, life coaches, right? All kinds of stuff, strength coaches, all the different things that guy has access to since he's a zillionaire. $1 million. Tom Brady, also one of the greatest athletes to have ever lived, also I have read spends upwards of $1 million a year on himself, on his machine, if you will. Russell Wilson, quarterback for Seattle Seahawks, also I've read spends upwards of $1 million on himself, on his name an athlete. How about, then let's talk about, big baller business guys. Do they surround themselves with people that are smarter than them in their respective fields and areas? Of course. They've got advisors, consultants, legal teams that they're all smart in these different areas. If these big baller business guys and these massive, amazing athletes are surrounding themselves intentionally with professionals to improve their lives, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't I do that? So for me, man, if someone is smarter in an area than me, man, I want to pick their brain. I want to ask questions. I want to be intentional. So check this out. Now, even though I didn't necessarily go seek out this appointment, right? This was just part of me getting integrated into this VA medical system. So this lady jumps on, and hey, I'm with the VA system, and I'm going to ask you some questions about your experience in the military. I'm like, hey, no sweat, right? I talk about my military experience all the time. Not a big deal. Until it became a big deal. I had no. Okay, so this is one of the questions. Did you experience any trauma in the Army? And all of a sudden, I lost it. I legit got emotional right in front of this lady on this Zoom call. It wasn't Zoom, but whatever the platform they used. I got emotional right on the thing. And I'm like, lady, I totally apologize. I'm so sorry. Like, I have no idea what's going on right now. I did not have this plan. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. And she's like, well, clearly, clearly you've got stuff going on. And so, it surprised me. I'm like, what is going on, right? It was kind of frustrating to me. What is going on that I am getting all emotional and worked up right now? And so she's like, hey, look, you don't have to go into details right now. You don't have to, you don't have to get down into the nitty gritty. You can kind of talk from broad brushstrokes right now about what's going on. And so I finally was able to get out one thing that happened, and then boom, another one hit me, got emotional again. And so, man, I was shocked. I have talked about the military hundreds of times, and I never got emotional before. I never got hit before by these emotions. And so anyway, so we talked through stuff. She's like, I won't go into details of the call, but she's like, okay, these are normally scheduled for 30 minutes. I need another hour with you. And so she said, so I'm thinking, okay, kind of the way some of these appointments work is like, okay, they're spread out, and, my next appointment may be in 2 months, it may be in a month, it may be in 3 months. She's like, what are you doing Wednesday? Which is just a couple days from now. And so I thought, wow, okay, there is clearly. So when we finally hung up and got off, and then my wife came home and she's like, hey, how'd your appointment go? I'm like, well, I clearly have some more stuff to work through that I was not aware of. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I got emotional on this lady 3 times, and she's like, well, what was the deal? I'm like, man, I don't know. I have no idea what was going on. So here's a couple insights that was fascinating for me. One is, one is this, that I have talked about my military experience probably 100 times to various people, individuals, even in presentations and speaking to organizations and stuff. And I've never gotten emotional like that before. So now I'm like, why did all of a sudden did I get emotional when someone asked me about my experiences in the military? Now, one thing is, like I said before earlier, back in my days, if anybody asked you, hey, how's your, how are you doing in the military? How are things going? Or even your chain of command in the military, if they ask you something, you just say, hey, everything is great, rainbows and unicorns and skittle farts. You don't say that there's anything wrong. Because again, if you say something's wrong, you're injured, or you've got a leadership question, or maybe you're going through some depression or something like that, man, again, back in my days, you mention anything like that and you are sidelined very, very quickly. And so one of the things that I'm thinking of is maybe because I had been so programmed, like, one of the things I heard this even not formally or officially at West Point, but just among classmates and that kind of thing. And in the military, never let your soldiers see you sweat. Never let your soldiers see you sweat. In other words, don't ever say just, hey, everything's great, everything's fine, let's move out and salute and execute. And so because I have been programmed for so long to not talk about stuff that I'm struggling with, I'm dealing with, or that maybe bothered me and I didn't even realize bothered me, a traumatic experience or something like that. Clearly, there's a bunch of stuff underneath the surface that I didn't even know about, which then made me think, I was telling Kathy, I'm like, well, crap, what else? Is there more stuff that I've buried that I don't even know about? Right? So if you had asked me, any of you had asked me last week, hey, Noble, do you have any residual issues from your military experience? I'm like, no, man, I'm 100% fine. I'm good to go, man. I'm full right angles. What? I'm squared away. That's a little military for you. So I'd be like, hey, I'm fine, man. Totally fine, no issues, no worries. And then boom, today's appointment, clearly I had stuff, or I have stuff buried that I didn't even know was underneath there. So again, which leads me to my next question is like, okay, well, what else do I have buried, military or non-military related, that I don't even know about? And how is it affecting me that I'm not even aware of? Could it be affecting me in ways that I'm not even aware of? Okay, so then I thought, again, had in my conversation with Kathy, like, okay, why now? Why did this come up now? Why did all this stuff, this emotional stuff, come up now? And I thought, so my initial response was, well, because now my brain or my mind, I feel safe talking about this stuff. It feels safe. And so now maybe because my mind feels safe, talking about this, now it knew. So now, okay, let me let these emotions out, because now Noble's at a spot emotionally in his life where he's ready, willing, and able to have these conversations and discussions. And I don't know, again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, so maybe there is some truth to that. And so then I thought this, and I've even said this a number of times in our podcast episodes. One of the ways that so I've said this before, one of the ways that you can know that you're getting healing in an area is if when you talk about that particular area, you're getting less and less emotional about it, to where it no longer affects you or no longer impacts you anymore. So the logic, if you follow that logic, the conclusion of that logic would be, if I can talk about something unemotionally, then I must be healed in that area. Which Kathy brought up, well, that may not necessarily be true, because again, how many times have I talked about my military experience with no no emotions. I didn't get it every time someone asked me, how's your military? Oh my gosh, I was so traumatized, or I had such a rough experience or bad experience, and so I'm traumatized. No, I've never gotten emotional before when I've talked about my military experience. And so that logic that I had originally said is a little bit faulty. Now, I do feel like there's some truth to that maybe in things that have previously been traumatic or emotional, if you have been working intentionally in those areas to grow and heal from those areas, and now they have less and less emotional impact on you, to the point where now you can discuss those things without getting emotional. I feel like, and again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I feel like that can be a sign or a clue that you are getting healing or healthier emotionally in that area. The thing that you got to be careful of is the big insight that Kathy dropped on me today, because is my military experience. So, which again, I've never gotten emotional about before. And so I would have said, oh yeah, I'm totally fine and healed from all my emotional or all my military experiences or whatever. Clearly, that is not the case based on my today's appointment with this counselor today, when I got slammed by a whole bunch of emotions. So be careful. I guess, yeah, be careful about thinking you're healed in an area that you may not be healed in yet. And take some time. So ultimately, how do you know? And again, not being a psychologist or therapist, how do you know is create some space and time and an environment that you feel very, very comfortable in, emotionally, mentally, and physically, to reflect on some areas of your life that may have been difficult or challenging, that you can see if you have any emotions come up. And again, have your pen, paper ready, journal, do some journaling, pray about it. Hey God, do I have some areas, maybe in my childhood? Do I have some areas as an adult? Do I have some areas in my military experience? Do I have some areas in my business experience? Do I have some areas as an entrepreneur? Do I have some areas in parenting? Whatever that space is, that topic is, unresolved issues that I still need healing or growth in. Because I know for me, what I don't want to do, again, now that I've been on this journey for a few years, I don't want to go through life unhealthy. And I now, obviously 3 years into this emotional growth journey and a year podcasting, what I know is our emotions affect us and impact us every single day and with every single decision. And that's a fact. That's not, and that is a fact. So that's not like, oh, this is Noble's, one of Noble's new insights. No. This is a fact. This is physiology. This is brain. This is how the brain works. So knowing that our emotional grid and our emotional health impacts every single decision, well, I want my emotional center of my brain to be as healthy as possible, because I want to be able to make the best decision possible in every single area of my life. And so I don't want to continue like I've done for most of my life, like literally 98% of my life, to stuff and avoid. Well, I'm good, man. Look, I'm a successful guy. Check me out. Successful by number one, whose definition, whose standards, and are you as healthy as you think you are? Are you as successful as you think you are? Perfect example. So a couple other things that help, some helpful analogies. Emotions are like this. You could go for until your 40s or 50s, whatever, Boom, they take an x-ray of you or a CAT scan or an MRI. Oh man, did you know you had a tumor growing in your whatever? I don't know, wherever tumors grow, your brain, your I don't know, wherever tumors grow. Well, how would you know that? In fact, I had a family member recently who had some serious pain in his abdomen. He had a massive inflammation. One of his, out of his intestines, something was super inflamed, like swollen. It was swollen like a baseball or like a grapefruit. It was huge. Well, did he know what was inflamed? All he knew was he had stomach pain. He did not realize his intestine was inflamed the size of a softball, of a grapefruit. We have emotional tumors growing inside of us all the time. For those of us that are not intentionally addressing our emotional injuries. We have emotional tumors growing inside of us all the time. That's why it's so important, y'all. When you feel something, don't let that emotional tumor grow, because it doesn't just go away. You may feel that feeling may go away. You may think, okay, I dealt with that, or no. I stuffed and avoided it. I locked that in a vault somewhere, which may be accurate, but that is the beginning of another emotional tumor growing inside of you. And emotional tumors don't just go away by avoiding it, just like a real tumor does not go away just by avoiding it. Something has to be done. And so that's a huge analogy that hopefully will help you out. It helps me out. Another one that helped me out today in talking with this counselor, she said, I don't even remember how she asked the question. When you have something that hits you emotionally or something, I don't remember exactly how she asked the question. How do you handle it? I said, well, my default for the majority of my life, and even still as of recent as of last week, because again, I'm still relatively new in this emotional growth journey. What can happen if I get hit with enough emotions from all these different open windows, right? Like open computer windows on my laptop. I've got this window open, that window open, this window open, that window open. If I have too many windows open on my emotional computer screen, there becomes a log jam inside of me where my emotional bandwidth, my emotional capacity gets tapped. And now I shut down. I shut down emotionally. I become emotionally unavailable. I withdraw emotionally from relationships, from my wife, from my daughter. And it typically lasts me 3 days. It's literally like, here's another great analogy for y'all. It is like an emotional Charlie horse, an emotional muscle cramp, where like recently, last month before, Kathy's back locked up. If you've ever had your back go out. Well, what happens when your back goes out? I've had my back go out a couple times. As a survival mechanism for your spine, it's a protection mechanism for your spine. I didn't know all this stuff until, again, hitting a chiropractor here and there, and the muscles that follow your spine completely lock up so tight that you can't move. When my back has gone out, I physically couldn't move. Well, Noble, what therapy are you doing when your back goes out? I can't move. I physically can't even move. What are you talking about doing therapy? I can't even move right now. That is what happens to me emotionally. And I'm not able to start my therapy, my physical therapy, if you will, my emotional therapy, until my emotional muscles stop flexing, stop this super tight grip, if you will. And that typically happens for whatever reason. I don't know why, but after 3 days. After 3 days, my emotional back starts to loosen up a little bit, and I can start, okay, then I can go back. All right, what happened? What caused my back to go out, my emotional back to go out? Why did I get an emotional Charlie horse? Why did I get an emotional muscle cramp? And I told her, I'm like, if I can catch my emotions before it goes into my default track, which is stuff and avoid and stew and marinate. Notice I didn't say process, because when I stew and I marinate, I'm not even processing. I'm just stewing and marinating. I get caught in this loop of feelings and emotions and thoughts that are typically not healthy or productive. And it's part of what keeps me there. And until, for whatever reason, I don't know if there's probably some sort of psychology or physiology that is explained with this, but after 3 days, I feel like I could start coming back out of this cave, this cave that I was in, and I can start to talk about. Even at Kathy, in this 3-day cave window, hey, Noble, what's going on? A lot of times I'm like, I can't even have a conversation. Like, I don't even know how to, I don't know how to answer your question. I can't cognitively process right now because I'm still emotionally locked up. And my goal, my prayer, my hopes is that as I get healthier emotionally, as I get better in this with my emotional coping mechanisms and my emotional tools in my tool bag, that I will be able to catch my emotions before they go down this big, massive interstate, 4-lane, 6-lane interstate highway of stuffing, avoiding, and stewing and marinating. Because right now, my healthy, productive, emotional tools is like a little footpath that is next to this 4-decade, 6-lane interstate highway. This little footpath next to it as I'm trying to do some better and healthier tools. But man, I've been handling things emotionally a certain way for over 40 years. I've been handling things a certain way. Over 4 decades, y'all. It's a 6-lane highway, interstate highway. And so this emotional growth path and journey is not, you're not going to get healed overnight. This is not an overnight fix. And again, if you're listening to this and you feel like, man, I just need some professional help, get it. All the best athletes, all the best businessmen, all of them, these great business people surround themselves with people that are smarter than them in those respective areas. Get help. Be like the greatest athletes and the greatest business people that know they need SMEs, subject matter experts, in different areas of their lives. And so get help if you need it. Seek out a professional. Seek out a counselor or therapist. And don't feel like if you find one, you got to stick with that one. Maybe you don't like them. Maybe you don't click personality-wise. Maybe whatever. Find someone. Don't stop until you get the help that you need. And I would, another encouragement or another emotional vitamin, emotional tool that you could put in your kit bag that I would really encourage you guys with is, again, go back through some of our podcast episodes. My prayer is that you guys can look. I'm sharing. I didn't read this out of a textbook today, y'all. I didn't get this from my Harvard PhD. I don't have a Harvard PhD. I don't have a degree in this stuff. This is the lessons that I learned from today's appointment with my counselor, with this VA counselor today. So I'm hoping that you guys can learn from my real-time, real-life emotional growth lessons. And again, if you feel like you're ready to take that next step of growing, again, listen to our podcast. Again, that's one tool. Another tool is our 8-week EQ course. If you feel like that would help you out, go and check that out. It's everyone that has gone through. This is no smoke. I don't blow smoke. I'm a business guy. I'm not going to blow smoke to you and say, oh man, we have had this great success rate. Fortunately, we have, but I'm not making that up. I'm not going to make up something that's not true. If we have only had 50% of the folks going through our course actually get change and transformation. I would tell you, hey guys, which is not too bad, 50%, but that's not even the case. No joke, 100% of the people that have gone through our 8-week course have said that it has transformed and changed different areas of their lives. Like actual, like tangible changes. Relationships are getting better. They're handling conflict better. They're becoming more self-aware. They're getting triggered less. They're not getting triggered as intensely as they would be otherwise. So again, you can go check out eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA for the course, and check that out, because our cart opens up very soon. If you have friends, maybe you've got friends that maybe man, they could really use this course. They could really need to grow in the area of social awareness or self-awareness or self-management or social management. This course can absolutely be a game changer, and we would love the privilege and honor to come alongside you in this journey of growing emotionally and healing, and hopefully being a little piece of helping you get some tools or some insights that can help you grow emotionally and get you to becoming more emotionally fit and healthier emotionally. And remember, man, that the emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally.